Hello.
So we're live.
Yes, we are live.
Okay, now we're live.
Yes.
Welcome to
the first official webinar for beginners. We'll be going over the painting basics in this webinar.
Okay, now we're live.
Yes. And today we'll be joined by SimzArt. I think a lot of people know who he is, and we will be going over the basic workflow of clipstudio Paint. This webinar will be aimed at people who are starting to use clipstudio Paint, and it will be geared toward first-time users. So I am your host, Shin. This is Joanna.
I'm Joanna. Nice to meet you. Welcome, everyone.
And yeah, so if we can cut to our... Oh yeah, sorry. We will be looking at the comments during the stream. So if there are any audio issues, video issues, or if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. There will be a Q&A session at the end. So yeah, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them and we will pick them up.
Yeah, and don't wait until the end because there will be many questions. So ask the questions early so that we can pick them all up and have you have them answered if possible. We might not be able to answer all the questions, so just asking for your understanding there. We'll try our best to get as many as possible.
Okay, so then let's meet our artist for today.
Yes, you're live.
Hey, I'm live. Hey, welcome everyone. I am Simone, or SimzArt on social media. I'm an illustrator and comic book artist. I work on, recently I'm working on witches illustration, and I'm working on a lot of illustration with witch themed, and soon I'm gonna make a comic about it. And today I'm gonna be your teacher. I'll work through your first day on clipstudio Paint.
Perfect.
So today's stream will be based off of the video we posted on the YouTube channel yesterday. And it will, so the one with the cat. So if everyone has taken a look at that, that's great. No problems if you haven't. Just as information, today's workflow will be based on this video that's on the screen right now.
Yes.
So if you would like to have a video that goes over everything, like very step-by-step, very meticulously, please take a look at that. Of course, this stream itself will be archived at a later date. So you can also watch this stream itself if you want a workflow that is more based on characters instead of cats.
Yes. SimzArt Simone will not draw a cat today, even though he does draw really cute cats. He does draw very good, mostly ghost cats as far as I've seen. So yeah, but we'll be seeing some very cute character art today.
Oh yes, and the stream itself will be around an hour. So if everyone has any plans after this,
Yes, and we'll see at what point we get to the Q&A, but roughly around the 50 minutes before the end. Roughly, we'll see how many questions there are. So ask away.
Okay.
All right.
Shall we get into the lesson itself?
All right.
Can you share your screen?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
I can.
All right.
You're just doing it.
Perfect. Yes. This is
Here we go.
the first beginner stream, so we're all exploring new things here. All right, go right ahead.
I will show you how to create an illustration that looks like this, actually like this. From scratch though, using the 3D model to start, and so it's gonna be pretty easy. So we will start, don't worry, because we will start from the beginning. So let me hide this. Let's make a new file. In order to make a new file in clipstudio Paint, click on File, go to New, and then select all the settings. I have currently the width set to 3000, the height set to 3750, resolution of 300, basic expression color set to color, and I will not turn on any template, so just set your paper color to any color that is not white, just like something just a bit away from white. I would recommend to do that. but you can even leave white. It's totally fine. We will have a very simple illustration process. So press OK, and we will have our new page. Now, here we can do a lot of things, all right? So the first thing that I want to show you is how to add a 3D model that we will use as a base. So this is a little bit of an advanced type of thing, but if you follow me, it should be fine. We will use a front face model. So just click on Window, Material, and click on Material 3D. Now, this will open a window that is right here, and click on Body Type. You should have, if you have the basic version and everything set correctly, you should have the model that there's a male and a female model. So let's drag and drop one of the models. I'm dragging the female model into our page. Now, since this could be confusing for first timers, I'm not gonna move anything too much. So the only thing I'm gonna do is right click on the canvas, drag and drop, so that I can set the model a little bit away from the edges of the canvas. And now I am going to just go in Window and then Material, Window, Tool Properties. That should be here, Tool Property. I already have, so I want to take this chance to say that also you can download my workspace from it should be the link down below. So you will find all these windows that I see currently right here on your clipstudio Paint. So the model, let's just turn off the apply light source, so we have a flat model, and we can turn this model to a reference layer. So in order to do that, just click on layer property window. On the layer property window, you will find layer color. Click here and the model will turn blue. Now from here, you can just go on the layer. You will find the layer window in the bottom right corner and turn it to multiply. So it's gonna blend with the background that you selected. You can change the paper color, by the way, double clicking if you want to change the color of the background. Let's say you have a wrong color, you have black. This is what you get. Double click, don't worry, on paper and select the color that you want, in this case, yellow. So it's gonna be easy to, eventually if you wanna change, it's very easy. Now let's lock the 3D layer. So in the layer window, click on this icon called Lock Layer, so we don't move it anymore. And now let's make a new layer, clicking on the icon that you will find right here. That will create a new layer set with a blending mode normal. So you don't have to do, let's not move anything. And right now we can zoom in using the zoom tool. That is, I use shortcuts, guys, so control space, but you can also zoom in and out using this button right here on the tool palette. You can click, drag and drop.
Just a quick note. So as Simone mentioned, his workspace is currently in the description for the stream itself. When you use a workspace, it also imports the shortcuts that are set for that workspace. So Simone might mention some shortcuts that he has custom adjusted for himself. If you try them out and if they don't work, you can try downloading his workspace and they should work just fine, as he is explaining currently.
Yeah, so you can see the shortcut, by the way, in the bottom left corner. I'm trying to go as low as possible so you can see all the buttons that I'm clicking. So if there is any shortcut that is included in the workspace, like Shin reminded me, you can also check out the shortcut eventually because I have an Italian keyboard. So if you have a different keyboard, my shortcut may behave differently. So you can adjust them going in File, Shortcut Settings. And then you can check out all the shortcuts and eventually fix them. But if you take a look in the bottom right corner of your screen, you will see all the shortcuts that I'm using. Every time I click something, it will appear there. So this should also help. Now let's start drawing. So I will turn down the opacity of the 3D model. Actually, I unlock 1 second the model and I set the opacity to 50%. And then I lock the model again. Now, the 3D model, we can actually move it. So we could also pose it. And in order to pose the model, I will unlock it again because I want to show you how to pose the model. So I will open again the tool window, and instead of body type, I will go in, where is it? 3D. That is a folder that I made with a pose that I already made. So you can drag and drop the pose on a model, and it will change the pose to the action pose that we picked.
Clipstudio,
I will. Yeah, please.
Clipstudio Paint also has a lot of default poses that come with it, so you don't have to make your own pose, save it, and then apply it. You can drag and drop basic default ones that also exist as well. It should be in your material folder under poses.
Yes.
You will have to download them first, but yes, they should be in there. I'm sorry.
No problem. You will find all the poses here. You can download them, and they are default. So there are different poses like the one that I showed you, but you will find other poses as well. Now, you can also pose yourself the model, as you can see with the mouse. If you move the mouse over the model, you can click, for example, on the shoulder, and it will appear. A gizmo will appear. And then you can move it around, for example, clicking the different handlers, and you can pose it. So the pose that I made, for example, I made it this way. So you can pose it like this. But again, there are a lot of default poses. They are all in the pose section. When you download, when you install Clipstudio Paint, you can download all the extra contents and put them, and they will appear in this folder. And you can drag and drop. I'm showing you this one that I custom made, but there are many others. I jump into the drawing section? Is it okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, I go. Okay, I go. All right. So now that the 3D model is set, now this is the fun part. Let's go. So I will lock the 3D model, and I will go on the normal layer. I will use a brush, a pencil brush called Pro, but you can use also other brushes that are default in Clipstudio. I want to show you quickly some of the other brushes. For example, it's a default one, the pencil brush, mechanical pencil. So set your color, double clicking here in the bottom left corner, like in this corner here, you will find the color of your brush, and I set to black. For example, with a mechanical pencil, we will have a look that is very similar to a pencil. I have my custom brush, so I will use that one because I'm more used to it. And I will start doodling the character. So let's begin. So this is our model. It's locked, so we cannot do anything wrong. We cannot move it anymore around. Let's start drawing. So I will draw with this pencil brush. I will draw the character with a sketch with this pencil brush. Again, you can use any brush you want, it doesn't matter. And I'm going a little bit fast, but don't worry. I have already a more clean version eventually that I will show you. But this is the process that I normally use. Another thing that I want to mention is that the 3D model right now we are using as a template, and I am using under the line art, but you can also use it just as a reference. So 3D models in Clip Studio Paint are very useful because you can pose them and use them as a reference, kind of like the good old mannequin that artists use. So in this case, since this is for beginners, I set the model in the canvas and I'm drawing over the model, which is something that a beginner can find very comfortable. But I would recommend using the models also as a reference. Let's continue the design. So also another thing that I want to recommend is that in order to have the best performance from many of the Clip Studio Paint brushes, it's recommended to have any device that recognizes pen pressure. Otherwise, the behavior of some brushes may not actually work the way you see in this moment. For example, the pen pressure will control the size of the brush of many of even the default brushes.
So right now you're using a PC version?
Yes, now I'm using a PC.
Okay.
Yes. But you can do the same thing also on other, on Mac, I believe, and also iPad. It's very, very similar. I used it actually on iPad and on Mac, also Mac. I think I used it on every possible device.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's all the same. It works the same. It's very seamless. Clip Studio has this thing that it's very seamless. So in order to not, you got where this is going, okay? I'm sure that whomever is watching right now, you got where this is going. So what I'm going to do is to jump to the final version of this design. So you already see the line art that I spent a little bit more time. Since we have only 1 hour, I'm not gonna show you only the line art. So this is the line art that I made. Here we go. So let's say that we reach this point with the 3D model on the back, like I showed you so far. So this is the 3D model. And we have the line art. So this is the same line art that you saw so far. I will turn off this layer. Okay, so we have the line art. What is the next step? Now, in order to color, what I'm going to do is to create a new layer. And I set this new layer on normal. The layer is gonna be under the line art layer. And I'm gonna use a very basic brush that you can find in every Clip Studio Paint, that is the G pen. Now, the G pen is a brush that has a behavior that is pretty simple to understand. When you press lightly with your pen on the canvas, it's gonna be very thin. And when you press very hard, it's gonna be very large. That's it. There's no transparency. This should be the best way to approach this program. I think it's a very simple way to approach the program, and that's why I picked this brush to show you this process. So let's start the selection. So on this new layer, what I do is quickly paint with the G pen just the outline. If you make a mistake, like I did so far, like here, for example, and you want to correct, you can use the eraser. So let's switch to the eraser. You will find different erasers. There is a soft eraser that you can use, for example, on the line art layer if you want to lightly erase the pencil. In this case, since we're using a hard edge, let's go back to the color layer. Oh, I just take the chance to rename this layer to colors. And I use, instead of the soft eraser, I use a hard edge eraser. These are all default, so you will find it in the program. Let's erase the problematic areas, and let's continue. Tell me. Go.
So when you made a new layer, you mentioned the blending mode of the layer itself. So you said it was normal.
Yes,
Yes.
all normal.
So just for the people who this is the first time hearing about blending modes. Blending modes are a mode of the layer you can select. It is in the layer palette in the bottom
Yes.
right now. And you can change how the color interacts with the other layers. Normal is just your regular layer, so color will go on top of it and it will be layered on top of other colors, so they will hide basically everything behind it.
Yes. I will only show normal layer and one multiply layer, which are the most common blending modes. And that's why I'm only using normal modes, because I assume that whomever is watching is a beginner or wants to refresh their basics. So I'm using only the base, the most canon, let's say, modes, like normal, multiply. I could use more, but I don't want to get too complicated. I want to get through the end of this to show that even with the most simple layer modes, it's possible to make the piece work. And so yeah, I'm only using normal, which is opacity 100%. So there is no opacity, there is no any blending with the below layers. So normal, and I will use multiply for the shadows.
Yes. And if anyone is curious on what the other blending modes do, we do have complete write-ups on the subject on clipstudio Paint tips. So if you look up clipstudio Paint tips blending modes, a relevant article should show up, and it'll demonstrate all of the related effects on that.
Yeah, I could go through them, but it will take more than an hour, I think.
No, it's okay. Let's just stick to the basically.
So I will quickly select like this. And once we have the whole selection done, let's say the whole outline, we will have something like this. So it's like this. In order to speed up the process, what I did is to draw the outline and then fill it. So I will show on the side how it works. Let's say that you have an outline that is completely filled like this. You can fill it inside with the paint bucket tool or the fill tool. You will find it between among all the default tools, and you can click on this one, refer only to editing layer, that's the name. You click and it automatically fills the shape. So what I did for this character is to draw the whole outline of the character with red and then click with the paint bucket in the middle, and that's what you get. In order to go fast through the next step, I'm not gonna select because it takes like 15 minutes on it for the selection. So I want to show you the coloring part, which is way more interesting. So what I'm going to do now with this layer selection is to click Control and click on the thumbnail on the layer palette. So we have a selection of the character. And now I make a new layer, hide the layer that we have with the selection, and start coloring the character. So I will start coloring, for example, first I want to start with a full color. So I will select the G pen, make it very big, and select a color from the color wheel that is the skin tone. And I will paint the whole skin tone. And now there is the fun part. How do we select the rest of the colors? Now, we could spend days explaining color theory, but I want to quickly go through how to quickly select some colors in order to have pleasing color palette. Now, this is the first color that I selected, so I will make a new layer, and I want to rename this layer color palette. And here I will just quickly, still with a G pen, create a color palette that will have the tones that we need for coloring this character. So we have the skin tone, I will select a little bit of a darker skin tone. And then for this piece, I want to use yellow as a primary tone because recently I'm pretty obsessed with yellow. So I will use yellow. And now there are a lot of techniques to pick colors, but one of the most simple and effective is use complementary tones to create contrast. So what I'm gonna do is select yellow and I will go on the opposite side of the color wheel and I will pick another color, which is blue. Now in order to have a little bit more, let's say, visual interest for the piece, I want to select green, which is, it's called analog color to blue. And I will select green, different type of greens. Now, in order to, since I spent a little bit more time than now to select the color palette, I will show you the color palette that I finished with these principles that I showed you. I selected these colors right here. As you can see, we have green, blue, yellow, and skin tones. Now, these tones have been selected the same way I showed you. And with these tones, I started coloring the character. Now, once again, click Control, keep pressed, click on the thumbnail. We have a selection now. As you can see, the matching ends around the character. Let's go back to the color layer. And I will rename actually the layer, color layer, color. And on this layer that now has a selection, we can start coloring. So if you have a brush selected and you keep pressed Alt, you will select the color picker. You can also select the color picker from the tool palette on the left. It's called eyedropper. Click here and you can select the colors. So I will select the yellow color. With the selection still active, on the color layer, the color layer is set on normal, so there is no blending mode applied, nothing. It's just a new layer. You color carefully without, of course, going on the other side. But if you do, no problem. We're using a paint that we can cover later, so don't worry about making mistakes. I want to give you another tip. In order to change the size of the brush, you can use Control-Alt, click on the canvas, drag the mouse left and right. Or if you want it easy, you have in the workspace that I shared, you will find already some preset for the size of the brush, 100, 150, up to 2K, so it's pretty big. Or there is another solution, which is change the brush size from the tool property window. Now here, for example, you can, with the G pen brush, you can use this slider to change the size. I rather prefer Control, Alt, click, drag, because you can see clipstudio will show you a preview of the size of the brush, and this will give you and you can get the exact size that you need for the area that you need to color. So now I will quickly color the shirt. As you can see, I can go over the part. The important thing is just to color. For example, here on the hand, I went a little bit on the skin, no problem. Click Alt, keep pressed, click on the skin, release, and now automatically with the eyedropper, we selected the skin tone. I resize the brush, Control, Alt, click and move, and fix it. And then I will continue here, click Alt for the eyedropper, select the skin tone and fix. I guess you get it. Now I selected the color of the, for the skirt, I will select blue, and then I color. This is all made on one layer, but of course, if you feel brave, you can make more layers. It's actually safer. I rather prefer using one layer. I guess also because I'm used to it, but you can make new layers for every single part of the coloring. I always use one layer because for me it's more simple, but you can use more layers, so eventually you can change them later if you feel not safe. If you feel it's not safe enough to have only one layer, you can use multiple layers. So I will quickly color. I want to show you the paint bucket tool again, because we are lucky. We're using a flat brush that is perfect for the paint bucket tool. So I will show you. Look, we will select this like that, just the outline. And now this inside part, instead of coloring like this, I switch to the paint bucket tool, clicking here on the tool palette or pressing G, and then clicking in the middle. Make sure that you have refer only to editing layer version of the fill tool, so we can easily fill the areas. Now I will paint the shoes. Press Alt, keep pressed to quick toggle the color picker. Click on the shirt color. I want to use the same color for the shoes for aesthetic. And then I color this other shoe. And then let's go back on the head. Now for her head, I will use the color instead of the skirt. I think I will go a little bit darker, a darker blue. And for this, we can use the color palette. Now, the color wheel. The color wheel has two modes. I prefer the triangle, but you may have the square. Now, either way, they have slightly different features, but either the one that you prefer, just select a darker color. Remember that the color palette works, the color wheel works this way. From left to right, you have more saturation. From up to down, you have more different luminosity, basically. So it's more saturated when you go toward the right corner, at least on the triangle. On the square, works slightly differently, maybe confuses me. I rather prefer the triangle. Basically, left to right, saturation, top, bottom, value. So let's go to the triangle. Let's select a darker value of blue toward the left, so it's less saturated. I like pastel colors, and lower, like going down, so it's darker. And I select this color for the hat. Now I will use the same technique that I showed you before. I will select only the edge of the hair very fast, like this. You can always fix things later, don't worry. I'm still using only one layer for the color. This is the most simple way, but you could use multiple layers, but that would just make it more complicated. So I'm gonna use the most simple way so everyone can do this. Here we go. Now that we have this selection done, I'm gonna quickly color the edge like this, and then G to select the paint bucket tool, the fill tool, sorry, or click on the palette. I will use G from now on, so assuming I'm using G. And then boom, we colored. Now let's color the hair. Okay, you know what? Let's jump to the next section. I already have everything colored, so instead of coloring every single section, I will jump to, I already have it colored, and looks like this. So once you finish, you will have something like this. The colors are slightly different. I decided to go for green, apparently. I completely forgot. It's the same. It's just a different color. The point is, you have all flat colors. But, as you can see, on a face, I applied a little bit of blushes. Now, I want to show you how to do this. So, you know what? Let's switch back 1 second on this part. I want to show you only how to apply blushes. This may be interesting for someone if you're into character design. So in order to do so, still with the G pen apply, like I'm gonna only use G pen only. This is a G pen only design. Alt, keep pressed, click the color of the skin. Now automatically clipstudio Paint shows on the color wheel what is the color of the skin. Now in order to make the blushes a little bit red, guess what? We needed to saturate them more and make them a little bit darker. So saturate, go to right, darker, go down, and then paint. Now see, this is a little bit desaturated, so we need to go a little bit more saturated. So let's go to the right. Perfect. Now we do these two blushes, and in order to blend them, let's use a blender. Now the blender, there are a lot of default blenders. Let's use blend. It's right there on the color palette. It's a default tool. You can go in blend and select wet blender or blend, the most basic one. just slightly touch on the edges. Okay, let's resize it. It was a little bit big. And let's blend the edges so the blushes are a little bit more natural. And this is how I made basically the blushes in this version. Of course, I spent a little bit more time, but that's the principle. Now, let's jump on how to make the shadows. Now, we have the color layer. I will set it, actually, it was set on normal. Here we go. And I make a new layer on top of this base layer, the one that we made it right now. The new layer is set, again, the default is on normal, but instead this time we will change the blending mode to multiply. So click on normal, go to multiply, and in order to paint the shadows only on the character and don't go outside the character, I will show you what happens if we don't do anything. So you will see what's the problem, and I will show you what's the solution. So the color of the shadows, it's gonna be blue. But since this blue is a little bit too intense, I will use it only as a starting point. That's a good trick, I think, in order to keep the color palette restricted. So instead of using a random color for the shadows, I will use one of the colors that I used for the piece, blue in this case. I want to use blue because, as you can see in the color palette, it works pretty well. But this is too saturated, so I'm gonna go up, so it's lighter, and a little bit more to the left, so it's more desaturated. And we'll get this color here. Now, on the layer that we have set on multiply, if we don't do anything and we paint, this is what we get. But if we go out, we have a problem here. So we could erase with the eraser like I showed you. So click on the eraser, delete, but there is a faster way. I'm talking of the clipping masks. Now, this may seem a little bit advanced, but actually it's not. It's very simple. If you have a layer that is above in the layer window, above another layer, and you click on this button right here, it's two square overlapped and one of them has a matching end. It's called clip to layer below. So the clip means that anything you draw on this layer, it's gonna be locked on anything that is on the layer below. In this case, the layer below is the colors, is just the colors that we have. I can show you 1 second how this layer looks alone. This is the color layer. As you can see, anything else is transparent. clipstudio will not color on the transparent pixels. In order to do this, if you're interested, click Alt, keep pressed, click on the eye next to the layer so you can isolate 1 second the layer. When you're done, if you don't click anything else, click Alt, keep pressed, click on the eye, and it will bring back all the layers the way they were before. Now, I clipped the layer on top of this base layer. And everything I'm gonna paint on this new layer, now it's not gonna touch the transparent pixels around the colors. And so quickly, I'm gonna apply the shadows. I'm using the G pen. The size, I'm changing the size with Control Alt, click, drag. Don't forget, that's the most useful shortcut I think you could ever learn, trust me. Because changing the brush perfectly to the size that you need, it's something that I don't know how I could live without it. So it's very useful. So I'm quickly applying the shadows using the G pen. So the light, wait, let's make the light come from the right. So let's put the shadows to the left, like this. And here we go. Like this. If you make any mistake, now I'm going pretty fast, but if you make any mistake and you want to fix, just press E with the eraser. We are on a layer above the color layer. So if you erase the shadows, you're not gonna touch the colors. That's important to remember. So you can always do the shadows and then press E, erase it, adjust it. Like this is like sculpting now the character. So you can always go back and forth. It's very simple. Once you get the grasp of it, it's gonna be super simple. So I'm erasing right now, for example. So I give a little bit of shininess to the edge, to the brim to the brim of the hat. Here we go. Let's make a shadow here. Shadow here. Now, I want to give you an extra tip that I think could be interesting. On the skin, don't use the color that you use for anything else. Like, technically, you should use a different color for every part, every object, etc., etc. It can be very complicated. But let's keep it simple. Use one color, but only on the skin. Remember to use a different tone. Instead of using this blue, let's use a more warm tone, something that is more skin tone. So let's select the skin tone. So Alt, eyedrop, click on the skin. We have the color of the skin. Let's move it a little bit down so it's a little bit darker. And let's use this color, maybe a little bit more desaturated. Let's use this color for the shadows. Something a little bit, you know, more skin, more in the vibes of a skin tone, like that. Since we are on a separate layer, we can reselect the color of the shadow, clicking with the eyedrop tool on the shadow, and it automatically will select the shadow. If we click here on the shadows that we put on the skin, instead we will select the color, the shadow color that we selected for the skin. I want to mention another thing. If the behavior of the color picker is different from this, it's because go on the color of the eyedropper, and you will find two different eyedropper default. So in this moment, I'm using pick color from layer, which means that Clip Studio is picking the colors only from the layer that I'm currently using. There's also pick display color, in which case Clip Studio will pick the color from all the layers. Now, depending on what you have, you may have different behavior. So make sure that in this case, if you want to follow along with me this tutorial, use pick color from layer. Let's get back to the drawing and let's complete the shadows. So I will apply a little bit more shadows here on this part of the shoe. And once you're done, guess what? I already have it done. This is what you get. So it's very simple. It's very similar, by the way. So this is the shadows applied. The last touch that I like to apply is some shading on the eyes and some final details. So let's go and I will show you how to do this. Now go on the line art layer and make a new layer on top of the line art. So if you remember, let's recap very quickly. We have the line art layer. Then below the line art, we have the color layer. I will show you the whole thing. So we have line art. Below the line art, we have the color layer. And then we have the shadow layer. Now, on top of the line art, make a new layer. This time normal, no multiply, no nothing. Normal layer, the default normal layer. And let's paint above the line art. The reason is that this way we can apply some final touches without actually destroying the line art or be covered by the line art. Specifically, I want to apply some catch light. So on the normal layer, I will go on the color wheel, select white with the G pen. I change the size of the pen to something very small. You can see on the screen what's the size. I want to actually collapse this panel so we can see more. And I will paint this a circle, so we have a little bit a better catch light. We can also go a little bit further, for example, and we can select the green that we have, the dark green, maybe make it a little bit darker, and still with the G pen, just paint inside the eye like this. This could be interesting. Here we go. So from distance, it looks a little bit more interesting. I don't know, to me. We can also apply some catch light, some highlights on the hair, for example. So let's select the hair color. So in order to do that, we can do two things like we learned so far. We can go in the eyedropper tool and change to pick displayed color, select the color of the hair. Now let's go back to this layer that we're using right now. And from the color wheel, Clip Studio selected exactly the color of the hair. Let's use a brighter tone, a little bit more saturated. And with the G pen, let's select the right size. And let's make some scratches to represent the highlights. Just for fun. And with this done, I guess we did it. That's it.
Yay.
We finished.
Yay.
Fantastic.
Got something, tell me. I can recap some parts if I went skipped a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, we do have quite a few questions. If anyone in the chat still has questions, please keep asking them now. We don't have that much time left, but we'll try to get to a few of them. You just talked about the shadows that you're applying, and you were saying, okay, highlights are warmer and more saturated. Do you have like a same like approach to shadows when you choose the colors?
I picked, like, you can use for shadows any color, basically, you want, because shadow color depends a lot on the light situation that you have. I selected blue because normally it's one of the most common colors that you will find. It's one of the most common colors that you will find in the shadows, because especially, for example, when you draw a character in an open space, the shadow is influenced by the sky color, so it becomes blue. But let's say that you are in a room where there are only red lights, the shadow maybe will be reddish. I selected blue. For the highlights, for example, I didn't went so far also applying highlights, but you could do the opposite way. Like, you could think in the opposite way. What is the color of the light source? So let's say that you are outside, you have the sun is slightly yellow, so like it gives a warm kind of light, and so you can use a warmer color for the light to create that contrast. And it becomes warmer and warmer. For example, at sunset is orange, the light source. So you can use that way to select your shadows and your highlights. Actually, I can quickly show you how to apply highlights if the hosts want me to show.
Yeah,
I don't know, guys, to tell me.
Yeah, let's do it. Just a quick show.
Let's quickly apply some highlights. For example, with this principle, I will apply highlights on the head. So what I'm gonna do is go on the color layer. Let's apply straight on the color layer, and let's select the base color green. Now there are many ways you can do it. I will show you actually. I will show you the simplest way to do this. I'm sorry, Shin. I'm gonna show another blending mode, but this is very simple. I promise.
No problems. Yeah.
Instead of multiply, I'm gonna make a new layer on top of the color. So the same way we use the multiply for the shadow, we will use soft light for the highlights. So I will use soft. This is like super advanced right now. But it's simple. It's simple. Instead of multiply, you can use soft light. Soft light has a very simple effect. It's gonna make brighter if you use any color that is above a certain threshold. It will make brighter certain areas. It will enhance the contrast, enhance the saturation, and make it brighter. So, for example, for applying warm highlights, what you can do is make a new layer, set to soft light, clip it on the color layer like we did for the shadows, and select the color bright and saturated, like a very bright yellow, like for example here. And we will have a highlight, for example. This is a very glossy way of doing a highlight, but it should work. If you want a even more warm and colored, you can add a little bit more saturation, for example. So slide down toward the right, like I told you, like toward the right is more saturated, and you will have a more yellow highlight. And you can use this highlight color. This is actually how I applied highlights on some of my comics. It's a very simple way and fast, and it works. And the advantage of doing this is that, again, you use one color that will blend with the surrounding with the colors below automatically, so you don't have to manually select. Of course, depending on your process, but I assume you guys are just starting. This should make it, at least for a beginner, this should make it. It should be pretty easy to do. Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah. Speaking of highlights, you also mentioned in the beginning that you're not using like a pure white canvas. Does it have anything to do with that?
No, not for this specific process. So you can use any color you want. I rather prefer not using pure white, because some blending modes, in my experience, you will notice that they have very strange behaviors if you use pure white or pure black. So everything usually below full white, for me, it's always a little bit easier, but it's a very subjective thing. I think that it really, for this process, it doesn't really matter. I always suggest, I would say that one of the reasons for not using also pure white is that it burns your retina. If you stare at the screen with a pure white all the time, trust me, after a while you get fatigued. So especially for sketching part, actually there are some artists that use gray, like something like this. And this, it's more relaxing to look at. I changed the color of the background, double-clicking on the paper color. So I want to just remember that it's super simple. You can change anytime. You can pick any color you want. So I rather prefer colors that are in the paper tone. That's why I tuned down a little bit. And because some blending modes that I guess you guys will find out in the future function a little bit better on something that is not pure white, in my opinion. That's a personal opinion.
So for this tutorial, Simz is using a very minimal workflow. His usual workflow is a bit different. It uses paper textures. It also uses a lot more different layer types and whatnot. And we are currently planning a video for the YouTube channel that goes over that process a bit more in detail. So there are questions about how do you apply your paper texture to that is apparent in your other work. So we will go over that.
Okay. Yeah. We will explain in the video, but I can quickly show how this piece looks, because I already have it ready. How it looks with textures, if you guys want to see. I will explain how in a video specifically, but now you can see how it looks. So everything we did so far, it's basically the same. The only thing is that I applied a layer on top that with some specific features that gives a little bit of grain, a little bit of that paper texture. The way I applied the layer, though, I assume we can explain in more detail next time, right? If I understand correctly.
And also one thing, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but all of these features are available in clipstudio Paint Pro. These are not EX exclusive features. So if you have Pro, you can follow all of these steps. Sorry, there are a lot of comments about which version you were using. So.
Oh yeah. It's I think this doesn't use any specific feature of EX.
Yes.
Even though I want to disclose that I'm using EX right now, but there's no features that needs EX specifically.
We had one question. You were using the fill tool for doing the flat colors on your illustration. Some people have the problem that if they use the pen and then use the fill bucket, they have like a tiny line that remains.
Oh, that's
when
easy
they
to
fill.
fix.
Could you explain how you
That's
fix
easy
that?
to fix. Yeah. Okay, so in order to do that, I will use a blank layer so you can see. Let's say that you have, let's make with black, a circle, and you want to fill this. Now, there could be many reasons why you have an edge, but the most common one is that when you select the paint bucket tool, if you select, this is the default refer only to editing layer fill tool, you will find in the tool property window an option, an option that it's called area scaling. Now, area scaling is gonna change the behavior of the fill tool after you actually click. So what happens is that if you want to fill this and the area scaling is set to 0, the fill tool will fill everything and will stop in the moment it finds a pixel of a different color from the pixel that you clicked initially. So since we clicked here in the middle, Clip Studio will fill everything until the color change. So as you can see, zooming in, there are a bunch of pixels. When you click, it will stop right there. Now, to avoid this, you can use this very useful feature, by the way. One of the reasons that I love Clip Studio is that you can click this button and crank up the area scaling to 3, for example. And this means that when Clip Studio finds an edge of a different color from the color where you actually tapped, it will add 3 extra pixels on the surrounding edge of the fill that will cover that gap. And so, as you can see, it becomes full black. Also, double check that you have the tolerance set to a proper level according to what you're trying to fill, because if the tolerance is too low, as Clip Studio will be very strict on what colors will fill. So the higher is the tolerance, more easy Clip Studio will color everything. The lower is the tolerance, it will be less likely. And the third thing that I also want to mention, for a reason that you could have actually a gap, is if you use textured brushes. If you have textured brushes, there will be more irregular edges, and that could enhance, like you could have more problems. And well, using a mix of tolerance and area scaling, that's where you should check to fix the problem.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. I think we're getting to the end of the stream. Unfortunately, there's a lot more questions. A lot of them have been answered in the video already, in the stream already. So if you look at it again, you'll probably find the answer you're looking for. So we encourage everyone to just come back and
take a look.
Take a look at the video again.
Yes, we also have Clip Studio Paint Tips and Clip Studio Paint Ask. So Tips is our tutorial website. So if you type in what you don't understand there, tutorial could pop up. Also Ask is where you can ask questions to the community, and people will get back to you on that as well. So if you look back and you still need some more advice or want some more information on that, I would recommend looking up on those websites as well.
Yeah. Could you do your full camera view again, just so that we can say goodbye to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So thank you for the tutorial. It's very informative. I think everyone liked it as well.
Yeah, everyone enjoyed it. Says thank you in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
We thank everyone for joining us today
Yes.
during the webinar and asking the questions and being very attentive. It was great to see everyone supporting and answering questions for each other. That was really nice to see. And of course, Simone, thank you so much for your time and explaining your workflow very simply. So it was very helpful. I'm sure a lot of comments are very thankful for your time on this one.
And Simone's information is in the description. I think you stream 3 times a week. Is that true on Twitch?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And your brushes are also available? Because we did get some questions about that.
My brushes are you will find some brushes that I shared on Clip Studio Paint Assets, like watercolors. You will find a watercolor brush, a pencil brush, and I think that's it. And another one too. I can't remember. And the workspace.
The workspace and also a texture, I think.
And a texture, I think you do.
So Simz is a regular on our YouTube channel. He produces videos on how to use Clip Studio Paint. He covers a lot of topics. There are a lot of videos on our channel as well. So if you'd like to see more of his work, if you would like to see more of his tutorials, please take a look at our YouTube channel. And as we mentioned, we will be following up on this stream with a video on a more advanced workflow. So keep your eyes out for that. And yeah, I think
we will be having more webinars in the future, so we're planning to do this more often, also in different languages in case English is not your first language. So check back with the schedule and the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you want to get the notifications right away. So we're happy to see you again in the next webinar for beginners. So
so Simon, if you have any closing words for our stream.
Yeah, I was reading chat. I would say like if you couldn't follow some of these steps, you can always watch it back, guys. This is gonna publish, like Shin said. So I hope to see you soon, guys.
See you soon. Thank you so much.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
Bye.